Hey, look, if someone can buy your organization on, pennies on the dollar, they're going to do it. And that's exactly what happened with the ACC and this whole TV contract deal. I mean, I'm sorry, that's exactly what happened. And whoever made the deal, from what I understand, a lot of the minds behind it, they're gone. And because of that, Clemson and Florida State's been suing to get more money to get out of this terrible deal because the ACC has not lived up to their end of the bargain, taking care of their member schools. They're more interested in taking care of, well, potentially themselves. And so Clemson misses the August 15th withdrawal notice, which means Clemson stays in the ACC for another year. Yeah, 2025. Clemson will be playing the likes of ACC teams, possibly California, Stanford, SMU. I don't know. Haven't seen the schedule next year. Who cares? And also, the injury bug is biting the Tigers again. We're going to talk about that and more. Happy Saturday, August the 17th. We are 1 week away from week 0. That's when Florida State and Georgia Tech gets together in Dublin, Ireland. 2 weeks from today. In fact, right now it's 11:27. 2 weeks and 32 minutes and some odd seconds from right now, Clemson and Georgia kicks off in Atlanta, 12 o'clock, ABC. It's just here. It's just like, boom, it's happening. Anyway, I do hope you'll subscribe. Just crossed over 4,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for that. So I hope, if you like what I'm doing, I hope you'll subscribe and pass it along to your friends who enjoys talking college football and Clemson football, etc. Let's dive right in. This week, Clemson missed the deadline to withdraw from the ACC. It was August 15th. And had they withdrawn, well, there would have been money owed, right? And also, you have to have somewhere to go. And let's just read a little bit. This is from Clemson Tigers on SI. If Clemson submitted the needed information to withdraw by August 15th, it would have allowed them to leave on June 30th of the following year, which would be 2025 in this scenario. Clemson's reason for leaving is simple. They're looking to make more money as an athletic program. The ACC's television deal pays its member schools around $30 million per year, the third highest payout among Power 4 leagues. But the SEC and Big Ten are closer to $60 million annually. The new college football playoff contract beginning in 2026 includes a new revenue distribution model that will pay SEC and Big Ten schools around $21 million annually, while ACC schools will earn around $13 million. Clemson could lose out on as much as $40 million. Between those two revenue streams, ACC schools are looking at being as much as $40 million behind Big Ten and SEC schools annually. For some of you who really missed that part, that's like every year, especially if they make that college football playoff. So I said this on a video earlier this week. You want to know why Clemson and Florida State, why they have a lack of respect? Okay, we could talk about Florida State and getting blown out by 60 points to Georgia. Yes, I know the Water Girl played football for Florida State because a bunch of players sat out. I get it. 60 points still? Okay, all right. I digress. But I think we need to ask ourselves this question. What about Clemson? What about Clemson? 2021, they went 10-3. 22, they went 10-3. Last year, they went 9-4. The Tigers, who owned college football, took the baton. They were not handed the baton from Alabama. They took the baton 2 out of 3 years, meaning they won the national championship. We know it. If you're a Clemson fan, even if you hate Clemson, you know that happened whether you liked it or not. But they have lost some of their dominance, so it's okay for certain people to look at Clemson and recently Florida State with, even though they had that undefeated season, but they went in, they lost that game by 60 points. You get to a point why, or understand why certain people are looking at them going, hey, y'all are not living up to the dominance. You're not living up to the hype. But I think it goes deeper than that. I think that this deal that was signed many years ago, even the dog's barking over it. This deal that was signed many years ago, through what, 2036? Set the ACC and its member schools up for failure. Now, schools like Wake Forest, where you win 8 games and you might as well have won a national championship, they're thrilled about this. Duke, I know Duke had a good season solid season last year, had an injury not bit Duke. And we'll get to that on the Tigers here in just a second. I think we would have saw a Duke team reach new heights that has never been reached in that program. But you know what? Riley Leonard went down with an injury. And the vast majority of the teams didn't even play the same Duke team that Clemson had to play. But teams like them, they're thrilled over this deal. But teams like Florida State and Clemson, teams that can actually go out and play in college football playoffs, that has a legitimate chance, not only historically, but recently. I know our Tigers have some work to do. You know I've talked about that. I'm not glossing over that. But if there are 2 teams right now in the ACC who legitimately has the attention of college football and their masterminds, it's Clemson and Florida State. They are losing out. Why? Because the decision makers made a terrible decision. A terrible decision. And we can go through how the Swaffords potentially took care of one another. Dad took care of son over at Raycom. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite here. I understand why you would try to take care of one of your children. I get it. It's like the whole thing going on with Deion. There's things that I don't like that Deion Sanders has done at Colorado. And I've kind of stayed off of that because I'm letting some of this hash out. But I cannot blame Deion Sanders for trying to help his sons. I can't. Other things, I wish he'd cut it out. Well, that's just prime. Well, you know what? We all supposed to grow and cut out some of our things that we shouldn't do. And there's some things that he should cut out. I think people would have a lot more respect for him and he could still have that flashy flair. But that's another video. Teach their own. But no one respects the ACC members because the ACC corporate took a dump on them many years ago and sold them out for pennies on the dollar. Now, I live in the upstate of South Carolina. And in downtown Greenville, there are some really fine restaurants. They're very expensive. Probably the most well-known of all of them is Hall's Chop House. Hall's Chop House is a fine steakhouse that actually originates out of Charleston. It's very expensive. This is not Ryan Steakhouse. This is not Golden Corral. This is not Longhorn. This is where 2 people can go in and eat and spend $300 to $400. Now, let's just say that there's a restaurant that opens up down the road from Hall's Chop House. And instead of $300 or $400, you can eat there for $50. Their food might be close two as good as Hall's. But here's the deal. No one is going to see that little podunk restaurant as esteemed, as highly esteemed as Hall's. They might serve the same grade of food, but they're not going to see it. Now, we could pause there and say, okay, Brian, there's some holes in your argument. The SEC does have better schools as a whole, like numerically. There's more better football playing schools in the SEC and the Big Ten than the ACC. You are 100% right. But with the ACC and the poor deal that was made a long time ago, you need to understand something. The two schools that actually can play football consistently and consistently be some type of, now with the playoff tripled in size, a potential playoff contender. They are paying for it big time. They're paying for it. So the example with Hall's, they're going to get more respect because of the atmosphere and how much you have to pay for their food, even if there's a little podunk place right down the road that serves food that's just as good, but instead of paying $300 or $400, you pay $80. It's perception. And that is the problem that bites Clemson and Florida State squarely in the athletic butt. I would like to say that I remember a time that if you were a member of an organization, that organization takes care of you. But folks, I would have to lie. I don't know how many times I've seen members be mistreated by its organization. And you know why that is? It's because we have been tempered in so many ways in different categories of life that if we join an association or an organization, whatever it may be, that we think that they're actually going to live up to, hey, if you join us and you trust us with your membership and you're part of the association and you pay your dues and blah, 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 you know what? Because of that, we're going to take care of you, and that's why you should join us. Folks, that is a crock of crap. I don't know how many times that I have seen in just, again, various categories of life. You join an association, you join an organization, you join a conference, you join a business, and they lie through their teeth. They get you contractually obligated to them. And what do? They mistreat their members. And this is the case with the ACC. The ACC actually was created basically by its members. Over the years, it gains its strength from its members, but somehow the overlords and the former athletic directors were sitting around. I don't know if they had been drinking, whiskey sours all day and then decided to go into a contract negotiation. I don't know. And quite frankly, I don't care. All I know is this is a terrible deal. It's been a terrible deal. And our Tigers are paying for it. Think about Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is being taken care of better than the Clemson Tigers. Can you imagine that? Vanderbilt is a wonderful academic institution, but here's the deal. They're not good at football. And if they have a good football player on their team, we have seen them transfer out. Like Georgia went and picked up one of their slot receivers this year. The guy was really talented. So what did he do? He hit the transfer portal and he goes to play for Georgia. But they will be taken care of better than Clemson. Sit and think about that. Hope you'll subscribe to the channel. I do appreciate it. Got a bunch of people in here. I'm going to run through this really fast. Thomas Mills, my old buddy over there in Germany. He's stationed over there. Clemson alum, South Carolina, a native. Good to see you, my friend. Kalen DeBoss is in here. Oh, I didn't know it's in Atlanta. Yeah, pal. It's out there. Bloody Knuckles. Oh, no. Who's... let me see. Who's hurt now? Yeah, Clemson's, it really is. What's up, man? I still live you. Yeah, he had a typo the other day and said live you instead of love you. That's awesome. Thanks, Christopher Lee. Saw some Clemson Basement Podcast guy the other day claimed Clemson was back because they had a great second scrimmage. Might not be Clemson football. That's the problem, but Clemson media. I don't know, Roger. I don't know, my friend. But love my Tigers, but injury bug or not, it takes a miracle to beat Georgia. Hey, I understand. Over my budget by a lot, talking about, talking about Hall's Chop House, the double-edged sword. Oh, it's time to put up this year. Hoss is great. Good to see you, my friend. Carolina Jackpot, as a Gamecock man, I don't like Florida State. I don't have any respect for the way they acted the end of last season. I don't like Clemson either, but I dislike Florida State just a little bit less. That's hilarious. Stupefied, everybody signed. Everyone agreed. Live with yours. Hey, if all the people with a bunch of degrees who are snarky and power happy, not all of them, but a lot of them are. They're some of the snarkiest people you ever deal with. They're smarter than everyone in the room. They're more than happy to do that. They go and they signed a stupid deal. Yeah, they should. They should have to live with the scoring. They really should. Tulane, Georgia Tech would like to come back in time. That's hilarious. Oh my God, it's great. Let's talk about the injury bug has bit the Clemson Tigers yet again. And I'm pulling this up because I should have had the article pulled up already. But Shelton Lewis, the incredible defensive back who had a great year last year. I mean, he was a freshman. Guy came out there, he played very, very well. And he's banged up. You have Jaden Lucas. Now, he's not a freshman. This guy's a former 5-star defensive back out of Malden High School. He's banged up. And then we lost a few players this week for the rest of the season. Miles Oliver tore his ACL and his pectoral, and has a pectoral injury. Offensive lineman Watson Young suffered a torn ACL. And Ian Reed injured his knee. Now, Oliver, Young, and Reed, they're out for the season. They're done. Now, Shelton Lewis, I'm pulling it up right now, suffered a lower body injury. And all that I've heard is that he's banged up. Troy Stellato is still banged up. Troy Stellato had the best hands on the team last year. But he cannot stay out of the injury tent. And I'm not taking shots at that guy. But that guy is unbelievable. Unbelievable hands. But Lucas and Lewis, these guys, they're banged up. You have Georgia in just a couple of weeks. And SC Country, you're correct. Injuries have been a big problem for this team in recent years. That's the question about why is there so many injuries on the Clemson football team over the past 4 years. I mean, I get it when you get into the trenches. You have offensive linemen. You have these big, massive guys. Just play after play, going back and forth with the opposing defensive line. It makes sense. But we have wide receivers, and I'm going to talk about wide receivers. I know that, pause there. I know that the story is on defensive backs, Shelton Lewis and Jaden Lucas. All right? I know that. We see some injuries there from time to time. Makuba got bit by the injury bug. Jaden Lucas has been off and on with the injury bug. But here's the thing. The wide receivers have stayed in the injury tent. Antonio Williams last year, his entire season was cost by injury. The year before, the guy was playing outrageous. The guy had an unbelievable true freshman campaign. He was going up for balls in between two defenders falling backwards. And you're like, hey, you made that up. No, I didn't. I was at the NC State and saw it with my own eyes. It was unbelievable. True freshman. Just lighting it up. Bo Collins last year. I know he's with Notre Dame now. Bo Collins, he had injuries. Stellato, I talked about him. poor guy, he's just been issued basically one of those handicap tags with his face on it. So he can just, you're like, hey, he's like, hey, I can move now. I'm good. I just keep it. Adam Randall, same scenario. Was he the guy that like a year ago, 2 years ago, he was getting out of a vehicle and when he stepped down, something popped in his leg? Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember. I might be wrong. And I'm not making that up, by the way. I'm pretty sure it was Adam Randall. But we have seen injuries plague Clemson's wide receiver room. It's really bad. And folks, I'm telling you right now, I am holding off on my preseason preview of Clemson to ensure that Cade Klubnik is still okay. Because if Cade Klubnik gets hurt and you're like, well, duh, it's the starting quarterback. Yeah, I know. Some of you need to get that through your head. He is all we have at this moment. I know Dabo said that Vizina is way ahead of where they thought, folks. No offense to Vizina. I believe it when I see it. So, the injury bug is biting again. Shelton Lewis and Jaden Lucas are its newest, it's their, the newest victims. So, Tavoy Fagan, the true freshman, had the great spring game, had an interception, could have had 3. Corian Gibson, do we see him? We could definitely see him out there playing, starting against Georgia if these guys cannot go. Last night, I was on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel with Tiger Paul Craven and Jordan Bowman. And we talked about this, and I said, one of the things that you can take a little bit of comfort in is that in the secondary, at safety, you have R.J. Mickens, who has a ton of experience. And so he can help quarterback lead that secondary and take those younglings, if they start against Georgia or get significant playing time against Georgia due to injury with Shelton Lewis and Jaden Lucas, and I believe that was Miles Oliver. He can guide them and say, all right, guys, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. And just keep them accountable. But the injury bug is biting us again. We need to get to the bottom of what has caused so many injuries over the past few years. Did we change something with our nutrition? Now, I know there's some people out there starts rolling their eyes at that. Hey, folks, I hate to tell you, what you eat actually affects you. You don't have to be some weird tree hugger, but at the end of the day, if you're someone who believes that you can just eat whatever, or you go with trend fads, trend diets, good luck. You have to eat healthy. I wonder if there's a nutrition issue. And then I had someone ask me point blank, they were accused of, they were tested positive for using PEDs back during the national championship run. The question is, were they using something that was helping them stay healthy and not get hurt? I don't know. And I know I just became the bad guy for asking that. I mean, I'm just asking questions. The guys are suffering, riddled with injuries. The wide receiver room riddled with injuries. Our offensive line last year absolutely decimated with injuries. And we've seen it in the secondary over the past few years. Makuba being one of them. I think Sheridan Jones struggled with it. I want to say Nate Wiggins got injured. It's just a really interesting question that I would like some answers to. And you, as a Clemson faithful, you probably are asking it as well. Got some people in here. Shane Bentley, saying all the injuries across the league is really going to showcase the imposter depth. We will see. Shane is a member. He said that circle beside his name. Join the channel. So it's $3 or $5 per month. Shane, thanks for supporting the channel. Huffer Billy Paul, I didn't even mention that about you. I'm feeling injured just watching the news about all the injuries. Yeah. All of a sudden you're lightheaded and you need to lay down. Huffer Billy Paul has been a long time supporter of the channel as well. You can see that. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Don't want to go on up here and see if I missed anyone else early on. Folks, I'm going to close this down. I hope you have an incredible week. Yeah, hit the thumbs up. It would be awesome. If you do that, hey, if you'll subscribe, it is free. I'm just a guy in my bonus stream having a lot of fun. Hope you're having fun as well. It's easy. It's free. Subscribe. And if you want to join, the join button's below the video. You take care of yourself. And as always, go Tigers.